I wasn't a thought.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay, I'm talking to the camera now. I wasn't a thought, but I was distracted and I forgot what the fuck I was gonna go into. It might be like the PTSD that black males or black people as a whole experience just on the post-traumatic stress disorder, not just the multi-aggravated post-traumatic stress slave disorder, which is a real thing. You know, you need to read Joy DeGroy's post-traumatic slave stress disorder in order to get an understanding of it. It needs to be recognized by the AMA or you know what I'm saying, the medical, you know what I'm saying, or you know the psychological, the psychiatric version of, or the psychological version of the AMA, the DMHS, Department of Mental Health and Services. They need to, it needs to be recognized by the, you know what I'm saying, by the Hague, you know, by the World Health Organization, and also by the Hague, because I mean that's ultimately what we need to bring this to. We need to bring this to international attention, and because the UN is already suggesting that the United States is responsible for reparations to African Americans for both slavery and Jim Crow era, based upon the economic iniquity that was, or inequality that was practiced during that period of time.
And that still is.
And that's still being practiced to this period of time too. And there's the reason why there's it's man-made. There are man-made obstacles that cause black people and white people to be economically, you know what I'm saying, on different levels or different playing fields. It's not like, and black people had nothing to do with the system that created inequality within, you know what I'm saying, the economic, you know, landscape. Or differences between black folks and white folks. So, you know, it's obvious that, now, if you control the narrative, you can say, well, it's not so obvious that we owe restitution, but it is kind of obvious, you know what I'm saying, objectively, outside of this intersubjective agreement that they owe restitution. And those are the things that we need to actually really talk about as far as black people are concerned. We don't need to be talking about ending racism. We need to be talking about ending the effects of racism on us. And the only way that we can end the effects of racism on us is to alleviate the system, or to exit the system in which, or the intersubjective agreement in which racism exists and is being perpetuated upon us. See, we don't get the game. The game is this. No, babe, I'm still talking the game is this. As long as we are in this system in which which was developed upon racism, which is based in white supremacy. Racism is not just hating somebody based upon, it's not prejudice. It's not just prejudice. It's having the ability to enforce that prejudice. All right, look, okay. When I was on the street, right, I got in a conflict with this older white gentleman who was homeless. I was on the street, he was homeless. I had my vending set up, he was fucking with me. When the cops came, you know whose side they took? They took that white boy side. Plain and simple. I had to have two white boys with me to stand up and say, hey dude, he started it and he was just defending themselves. And if it wasn't for their white privilege, trumping his white privilege, and the white boys that was with me was also homeless. If it wasn't for their white privilege, trumping his white privilege, my black ass would have gone to jail. That's the reality of what white privilege is. It extends through, that's racism. That's white supremacy, in which a certain psychology and physiology is deemed the standard of normalcy, and the other is deemed as abnormality. That's supremacy in relationship to the intersubjective agreement. Now, we choke right. If you can't see that, and if you think that they're really want you to see that, that's the benefit. That's the white privilege. That's the benefits of this racist system in relationship to white folks, in relationship to black folks. And white folks are not going to give that shit up. When old girl asked that question, how many of you white people would trade being black in this society versus white in this society? How many of you want to be treated like black people are treated? And no white person can stand up. Why could they? And that's not just, it's deeper in the fact that they don't want to trade places with us. They don't want to have to live in a reality in which they have to feel inferior. And us being free of them is a reality in which they might have to potentially feel inferior, not because of our actions, but by the reality in which that presents. That we would do so much better as an independent society, as an independent nation, as an autonomous nation, as we would being integrated into theirs. That they know we would do better being independent than we are being codependent. That this codependency allows them a certain superiority that they would no longer have if we were independent. If you can get that. I mean, I'm smoking a joint right now. I'm kind of faded and it's early in the morning. I'm going to come back at this, but you hear me though.